Hey, hello everyone. We are here this morning with Jonathan Card, an architect and principal owner of Card and Company.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
That's right,
Okay.
Card and Company Architects.
Yes, and we are happy to be here. We all, the Park Properties Group, different ones of us have known you different times of your life. You've known some people from your church,
Yep.
and you've known some people from softball,
Yep.
and some people from and then new friends. Yeah, so Caroline and I like to get with people who we find interesting in the community, because we think the people who are our followers, our clients, our friends will also find you interesting if they don't know you already. So we just wanted to talk a little bit. Make sure you're charming
Make
today.
sure you're interesting.
Yeah. But we wanted to just visit a little bit about you. I was telling Caroline, I remember when you came to my house on Morningside, and I was talking to you about one of my kids who is artistic, and you had made the comment that it's challenging to build an architect business.
Mm-hmm.
And that might have been 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And during that time, you've built quite an architectural business. So tell us about that journey a little bit.
It is challenging. I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine in our degrees. I went to Texas Tech and I started at Baylor, but I decided I wanted to study architecture. And Baylor's an amazing school. I had a great time, but longer story, but it became very clear that's what I wanted to pursue, and that wasn't the place for it. So I went to Tech. My mom's side of the family's from that part of the world, but I tell people I took 5 years of architecture school and crammed it into 8. I had a lot of fun. And some of it was fun that was good and self-induced, and some of it was fun that led to having to retake a course or two and things like that. But we got it done. But my mom's side of the family's from that part of the world, and so I always had an interest or thought tech was pretty cool. So ended up going up there. But anyway, back to your point. It's like 100 when a normal degree or a typical 4-year degree is like 130, 140 hours or something. It's like 190 hours for an architecture degree, and exactly one course they have for professional practice to cover everything about business. One class. And it's a blow-off class. It's at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, Thursday, and everybody sleeps to it kind of thing.
Right.
So really, you go to school and you learn just enough about the language of architecture that it's probably not different from being a doctor or an attorney or something like that. You learn just enough about the code and the language that you can enter in and you can start the conversation, but you don't really learn anything about practice until you get in a practice.
How to run a business.
And so these guys that come straight out of school have known their businesses, whoa, I don't know how they do it, because I was a part of a two-man firm. I was the third person hired there. I was a part of a one-man firm, the second person hired there, and I got to see both of those groups grow up to 6 or 10 people. And then Lake Plato, when I joined them in 1998, I think I was hire 18.
Oh, wow.
But they had gone from like 6 to 18 in 2 years, and then we were at like 40. They basically went from 6 to 40 in like 3 years. And I got to be there a couple of years of that. And so anyway, starting a business, I wasn't running a business or trying to run one. I learned there. There's still so much of it that's just trial and error, and you make a lot of mistakes.
So I think when we met, you were on your own.
Yeah, so I loved Lake Plato and had a blast there, and we had just an abundance of riches. We had great projects, great staff, great fees. It was a really neat model, and I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to do development. And we looked at that as a firm, and the firm decided not to pursue that. So in 2008, we had no idea what was coming. Easy money, everybody's wanted to develop stuff. And so I was like, I had 2 kids at the time, the third one, I think maybe even on the way already. And it was like, if I don't try to do development now, I'm never going to get to do it. And I still haven't really done that yet. I still would like to do it at some point. So I left to start a development company, not to start an architecture firm. Made that decision December 2007, left basically last day of January 2008, and by March it was over. I had to go. I had to start an architecture firm, and so I did. But at least I knew a little bit about how to do it, and so I think we probably within a couple of years of that is when we met. So I started to land a few jobs and was starting to get going, but it was still very much the guy in a briefcase at a coffee shop, winging it.
Right. Well,
faking it till I made it.
You've done really well.
Thank you.
You've done really well.
Thank you.
So we saw that you opened an office in Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
So you not only have a great presence here. So tell us about Fredericksburg. Why Fredericksburg?
Yeah, I think part of it is it's interesting because kind of have gone against the curve, I guess. Everyone out there, all the consultants and all the literature says specialize, find one thing, be irreplaceable with a certain product type. And if we had done that, frankly, we wouldn't have ever grown. We'd be out of business. It's the fact that we do the addition for a friend, or we do a kitchen remodel, or we work on a dermatology clinic for a well-known dermatologist in town, or that we can work at all those different scales. But kind of the lesson I learned from Lake Flato, we had all this talent and we had these opportunities, and we were losing some people. We're like, shoot, if we figured out how to create an opportunity for them, maybe we could have grown that part of the business. And so
and kept your talent.
Kept the talent, and also just grown, and then from a business sense diversified and had more variety. And so and I had a stint. I left Lake Flato. I was on my own with Urbanist. As I mentioned, I created Urbanist Design because I had to. And then I had the opportunity to partner with a firm out of Austin for a period of time. I say partner, it wasn't literally a partnership legally, but I joined that firm 2 years with the intent of a partnership, and that didn't end up working out. But in that time, we won some work as a team in Fredericksburg. And so we competed against some great firms, and we were selected, and we master planned the Albert Hotel. And so I led that project with the whole team of that firm, but I was the principal that was running that project, and we master planned that. And during that time, I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is pretty awesome out here. And it reminded me a lot of the hometowns I grew up in. I grew up in Midland, my family on my dad's side, I mentioned Lubbock, small towns that's on my mom's side. On my dad's side, they're all from West Texas, Alpine, McCamey, Fort Stockton, Pecos. And Fredericksburg's like a much prettier version. I love those places, and they have their own beauty. But in terms of the town itself, the city, and it was quaint and charming. And so, back to your question, I have some really talented residential designers in my group, and we weren't really maximizing that in terms of high-end residential work. Work at Lake Flato, John Grable Architects, other firms, people in our firm have done some really beautiful high-end residential work, and I thought that may be a place to grow. Thought about Fredericksburg, asked a couple of my contacts out there. I was like, do y'all think there's a need? And they were like, we don't even need to meet to talk about it. Yes, do it. There's a need. And we found that to be true. It's not a secret anymore, but Fredericksburg's growing. And really, I think the thing that people don't really understand is they think it's outsiders coming in, and true, they're Austinlanders. They're not from Fredericksburg. They're not from Gillespie County, maybe in their heritage. But the biggest group of people that are moving to Fredericksburg are Texans. And so it's one of the fastest growing counties historically for the last 10 years. I think I'm going to just read between the lines. Don't quote my demographics or my numbers, my statistics, but it's one of the fastest growing by percentage regions in the state, and the largest group of people that are moving there are Texans. And so we feel like we have that. We are Texans. We feel like we have that connection with Texans. And so we went out there and just started meeting people, and it led to enough work that we opened an office out there in April of 24.
So exciting. So big residential homes?
Yeah. So what we told people,
I'm going to stay there. My daughter stayed. I think she was one of the first group. They had a wedding. There was a big Fredericksburg wedding.
Yeah. It's a great venue for that, plug for the Albert. But I mean, they've got a great barbecue joint, a great restaurant there in the space, and then obviously a fantastic hotel, spa. There's a winery right there in the ground floor of the building as well. They've got a local Main Street retail store. There's a tavern called the White Elephant, which is one of the oldest saloons in Texas. It's interesting. It was almost like a chain because there's a White Elephant in Fort Worth, and they were affiliated 150 years ago or whatever it was. And then the old Keitel Pharmacy, the property was owned by the Keitel family, and the old Keitel Pharmacy has been reinvented as like a really cute coffee and sandwich shop.
Oh my gosh.
And that's where you buy merch for the hotel. So they've got their own signature scent by San Saba Soaps, which is right down the street. I mean, it's dreamy. It's really cool. And the operating partners of that are still friends of ours, and hopefully we'll be clients again. So, But yeah, that's
But from there, so the homes, are you in a neighborhood like in a boot ranch? There's
Yeah,
boot ranch,
so-
and there's another development that's happening, and there's just lovely properties everywhere.
yeah. Part of the way we're connected, besides all the things we mentioned, as one of your associates back, last fall, as we started, fall of 24, as we started really moving in there, I wrote like 300 emails and let people know we're really pursuing high-end residential
You did,
in Fredericksburg. And then, as you know, it's a game of numbers. So those 300 led to maybe 15 or 20, like, tell me more, which led to maybe 5 or 6 leads, and then 3 or 4 really significant jobs. So several of those are in Boot Ranch or Boot Ranch adjacent, and they're in the construction. The clients come in, saying, I want to build it $500 or $600 a square foot, and I want a 4,000 square foot house. And one of the very first things we do is we run them through kind of a reality check. We have a lot, softer words or ways to say that, but we go through and we program the house, which is ARCA speak for what do you really want, and how can we be efficient with that. And so that was more like a 6,000 square foot house with like 2,000 or 3,000 square foot of outdoor patios and covered areas. And so not a 4,000 square foot house. And also all the wonderful precedent images that they brought to us are 1,000 to $1,500 square foot houses. Not fun. So you double the square footage and you double the cost, you triple the number of the house. But we gave them some realistic expectations up front. And then we ran them through a process. It's not proprietary per se, but we call it a preliminary pricing narrative. Because there's nothing worse. You guys have been around long enough for this to know there's nothing worse than designing and falling in love with the design. And then you get the reality check of the number. You've already spent 75 or 100% of the design fee. And then you're like, well, what do we do? And the only way to bring it anywhere back near to the budget is to cut an arm off.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so we have this process where we know enough about the products that we're designing. And we do this with our commercial projects too, where we can define the projects. We can use different ways, whether it's precedent images or sketches or little models or our own projects, and say, do you want this quality level, this quality level, this quality level? And we can do really basic drawings that can be measured. So there's a metric there. How much indoor, how much outdoor, how much is it out of grade? Like the expensive things the builder would need to know. And then we do a written narrative. And so we call that a preliminary pricing narrative. And so you spend about 20%, 15% of your design fees, but then you can take that to 2 or 3 contractors and not ask for a bid. It's not a bid, it's not a hard number, but it's a budget. And then they come in and they give you a reality check. When I look at those pictures and these sizes, this is an $8 million house, not a $6 million house. Well, can we get to 7? How would we do that? And then you bring in your partner, then you get your builder.
Then you build it.
And then what we found is that there are some builders who are really reticent to do that, and they just won't play our game, which is fine. But other builders are eager to do that, and they get to show their competence, and then you find the right partner, and then you got your team. You got your owner, your builder, and your design team, and then you work together from that point to just protect that budget, because we don't want to do renderings. Our website are full of renderings. We want to build buildings. And the only way we can do that is if we can help somebody through the process
get to that number they need to be.
Get to a number that they can actually feel like they can execute on. So,
okay, I did not know this when we first got here. I'm hearing maybe your dad coming through on your dad. You said was a CPA. I mean, you're approaching this very businesslike, very numbers driven to help your clients. That's interesting. I'm not sure.
That is, it feels really natural to us. And particularly to me, I don't know why that is exactly. I can't tell you that. And maybe some of it is kind of growing up with CPA, and my mom worked for them as well, and so that might be part of it. But I do have people kind of give me that kind of screwed up face, like, you're an architect.
Well, that's what it's you're an artist, an architect, or a singer. Again, artist. How does it? We run the business part, the numbers.
So I have great help. I have a fractional, and that is part of, like, I think pretty much everybody I know in the architecture business, 25, in some ways 25 was such a good year. And I won't forget it because of that, but I also know I won't forget 25 because of how hard it was. And that's been hard for a lot of people. We as architects tend to kind of be tip of the iceberg. We're the canary in the coal mine because so much of the industry of real estate and development and construction starts with us. And sometimes it comes through the contractor first, but generally speaking,
right?
Yeah. And if architects are struggling, or I mean, I have developer friends that call me like every quarter. In fact, a friend called me this morning while we were setting up, and I'll call him back in a minute. But every once in a while, and I recognize it as a pattern with him. He's a developer, he's a real estate owner, and he's like, "Hey, what are you seeing?"
Yeah,
because he knows that we're out there.
That you're.
So, but anyway, back to the numbers part of it. Yeah, that's just again, we're in the business of getting stuff built. And we love great design, but we also understand that, like, how do you...
You're creating a bridge for people to be able to make a commitment and get going on it.
The way I look at it, another architect that also consults with business owners, and that's one of it too. I've had some really, like, there's a guy named Win Whitman that I bought some one-on-one coaching time with. There's a group called Entree Architect. I was one of the first 10 founders of that group, and there's like 400, 500 firms involved now. Another time I was a group of something called Business of Architecture, and they teach the concepts of like profit first, if you've read that book, or E-Myth.
Yeah.
They use those concepts and help architects understand how to move from being technicians into business operators. And one of them is hire a good CFO, and I have one, fractional, but terrific CFO. But yeah, that's pretty much how we've done it, is just gotten serious about that part of it, because we want to see stuff built.
You want to see it.
And one of the things that Wynn talked about is the analogy that he used, which was interesting because Business of Architecture also had like a visioning plan, and they would call it a summit map. And talk about base camps and how are you going to summit. Well, Wynn looked at it the same way. And as an architect, he pitches himself as a trail guide. You come to the trail guide and you say you want to summit this mountain. And a lot of people don't realize that building a house is a mountain to climb. And some people can go straight up the cliff face. I can, because I've done it for 30 years. But most clients can, and that's not very fun for them. It's hair-raising. It's scary. It's dangerous. They want to enjoy it. They want to look at the waterfalls and the flowers on the way up, and maybe go over a glacier or two, but not be scared to death.
Right. Feel like they're secure in what they're doing. Yeah.
And so many projects die at the second or third base camp. They don't summit, and that's just the reality of custom design, whether it's commercial or residential. But our goal is to help you summit the project, and so to do that, we got to know the risks, and the financial risks are the biggest risk in any construction project.
It can be overwhelming.
Okay, so when you return that call, 2026, how's it feeling?
I'm optimistic. I tell people that we have two kind of selling seasons. When I was with the firm from Austin, we'd opened that San Antonio office, and I talked to my business partner in that, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, how are we looking?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, Christmas is coming, the hunting season's coming, everybody's going to go away." He's like, "What are you talking about?" Down there, it never slows up there, I should say. It never slows down. At least his firm hadn't. 2025 was slow for everyone.
Interesting.
But at that time, they just had calls around the clock. In San Antonio, I call it the turkey coma. Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day. Just phone rings, you're hello. You're so excited because there's hardly any calls. But it's right about now that things start to pick up. But we picked up a terrific project in Spicewood, a luxury product up there, high-end residential. We're not the designers, like Plato's the designers, and we're going to be the architects of record. And so that means that that means they provided the concept and the design, and they're beautiful designs. But because there are going to be 134 of these houses, the cost and just the time commitment and all of that, they suggested, hey, you might want to find a couple of other groups to work with to execute the buildings. And that's not uncommon. Even the building we're sitting in, my friend Don McDonald did most of the concept and the design work on the project, and then another group that really knew how to do apartments executed the building as the architect of record.
So somebody could do the renderings or the creating the concept, and then someone else does the technical.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's much more than that. I don't want to create the illusion that it's just pretty pictures and somebody else has to make it real. The designs that Lake Plato provided. This place is called Canyon Ranch, and the designs that they provided are really lovely and also very consistent with the rest of their portfolio. And so they're very well thought out, but they just needed somebody to take those and do the technical pieces, because how you would build one house with one builder is different than how you would build it with another. And so we needed to create the documents that this builder and this owner could use. And it's great because, I mean, my high-end residential team is getting to work on a lot of high-end residential homes.
So it's multiple homes?
It's three homes. You could think of them as, kind of baby bear, mama bear, papa bear. So they're versions of each other, 2,800, 3,800, and right at 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
And Canyon Ranch is a very well-known wellness resort offering, Tucson, Fort Worth, other locations. This location in Austin, along with the spa and the resort, they're going to have these private residences that people can buy.
Wow.
And so they're already starting to close contracts or go under contract on some of these houses, and one or two of them will start this month.
That's exciting.
That's very exciting.
Yeah.
How do you, so if you're the first stop with a client, would be that commercial or residential, like they're coming to you because they want to build or they have an idea of something they want, how involved are you with, I'm sure some builders or the people erecting the dwelling or the building are better than others, or you enjoy? I mean, do you have a say? Do you help coach the client?
Sure. Yeah, better's relative, of course, based on the project. It's a hammer and nail situation, right size hammer for the right nail. And I'll say in Fredericksburg, it's interesting because it's a little bit different. Most folks out there, I shouldn't say most, 3/4, let's say, find the builder first. And so we're building relationships with the builders and getting to know the home builders and the commercial people. And then we're also so it's a back and forth, and our two industries as general contractors and architects are very dependent on one another in the relational part of it. And so sometimes our clients come with a relationship already established with an interior designer or with the general contractor. But like in the case of, we were talking a little bit earlier today about the project we have in Alamo Heights, that client came to us first. And then based on the house, they said, who would you recommend? And we gave them a list of people, and they ended up picking one. And I think they made the right decision with that contractor, but they picked from a list and they had a couple of conversations. But sometimes what we'll do is we'll use that preliminary pricing narrative I talked to you about. That's where we can introduce them to 4 or 5 different contractors that we think are appropriate for their job. And so the work in Boot Ranch, that's exactly what we did. We got the design to a point, we created the narrative, we invited about 6 contractors, hoping to get at least 4 numbers. And the contractors actually like it. Some of the contractors in your audience may be like, looking at me sideways right now through the screen. But some of them like it, some of them don't. But the advantage is that to give a bid, a hard bid, it's the making of a contract.
Right.
It's a legal accounting, of what I'm going to do this for this. The budget is helping the client understand the reality, what it could be, and then tailor the project to that. And for a general contractor to put together a bid that they're legally they have to pad it. They have to know what the numbers are. If there's something crazy in it, they got to really understand what the risk is, because they are guaranteeing, I'm going to provide it for X millions of dollars. And if you make a big mistake, it might be a six-figure number or something like that. Whereas in budgeting, they have the same rigor, but they can go based on their experience, and they can work with the client to adjust the number. So back to your question, yes, we can help with that. We work often. We've got a project out in High, Texas, near High, called High Springs Ranch, and it's kind of like the one I described to you. It's 4 prototypical cabins, modern hill country style, and an amenity center. And in that situation, we were brought into the project because the owner already had an existing relationship with the contractor. On the really nice house I was telling you about out at Boot Ranch, a contractor actually referred us to the client because they were friends. But when we got to the bidding part, that contractor's so busy he didn't want to bid it. And so we brought 4 or 5 other contractors to it. And through that process, these guys with a pretty easy lift were able to use their institutional knowledge to tell the client kind of what it would cost. It was a range. We picked two guys that we wanted to have a further conversation with, and that's where we are in the process right now, is that they're trying to decide which contractor to pick, but they're both within probably 10% of each other right now. And even though it's a budget, a little bit of a guesstimate, it's a realistic number for what they could execute the project with, and then they're not stuck with somebody they don't feel comfortable with. They get to pick the one that has the right feel
for them.
Yeah. So. It's complicated, right?
Yeah,
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so you mentioned interior designers. So how do they come in? How do they plan with your design? Working with someone who's hired you to.
So thank you for that question. So some of the projects that we work on. Particularly some of the work out in Boot Ranch where it's coming through the builder. Often the design is thought of as kind of a siloed piece and the landscape is kind of thought of as a siloed piece. So one guy does his work and ships it to the contractor, the other does their work. And you end up with some beautiful homes that way. But from our perspective, they where they could be better and where the real opportunity is when that team is assembled like from as close to day one as possible. Right. So it's really, I said a while ago, it's like you've got your three-legged stool, the owner, the contractor, and the architect. But the piece that really is missing in that is the interior design and the landscape, depending on the project. So we go through very similar processes. It may not be there may be a budgeting piece, but we, for the house on Torcito, we wrote 4 or 5 landscape architects, 4 or 5 interior designers. Said, here's our concept, here's our ideas about landscape and interiors. How would you approach the project? How would you structure your fee? And then our client was able to pick from that the delivery style and then also who they wanted to work with. And then from there, we adapt our process of how we work with them. But I think some projects, again, there's a demarcation or a line where the two don't kind of cross. And the most successful projects are where they're melded.
Okay.
And then also as architects, we get pretty excited about, we have opinions about interiors, but they'll skew in a certain way. And interior designers, again, this is where they might be looking at me sideways through the screen. Interior designers can pick out where it's just like I can pick out, or people can pick out if an architect did their own branding. You can pick out architects that design that doesn't mean the interiors aren't great necessarily, but we really like collaborating with them.
Okay.
And we would rather not have a situation where they're off meeting with the owner, or we're off meeting with the owner, and then it becomes a situation where there's not communication. We like to work very collaboratively with the whole design team. Somebody needs to lead. Ideally, the architect would be prime. Not because the architect has better ideas, but because they touch all parts of the building. We have some projects in the commercial world. We're working on a project up west of Fort Worth right now, where the big idea person, the person who's really driving this 90-acre development, is the landscape architect. And so they're prime, and then we're coming in and supporting the big move because that's the thing that matters the most to the owner.
Well, you have to have an ego or a personality that allows you to pivot on those types of opportunities, right? Because not everybody's not going to want to be. They want to be prime and not take a subordinate position on it. On the interior designers, are you talking about wallpaper and paint? Or are you talking about room layout?
It could be both, you mentioned, kind of the pairing of finance and architecture and thinking of it as a business. We also are really technical on layout and function.
Okay.
I mean, and some of our commercial, it's a sweet story, and if this gets cut because it's too long, I understand, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. We worked on Cured, and kudos to my friends at Cured. 5 James Beard nominations and 13 or 14 years in an impossible industry. I mean, they just absolutely rocked it. Steve and Sylvia are taking a really well-deserved break, and we're going to go celebrate. I'm going to take them to dinner. We're going to celebrate next month, and I'm so excited for them. But I went to one of their sister restaurants because they opened up a couple of hotel restaurants and hotels, one in Austin. And we went to that restaurant, my wife and I, and then all this food started coming out from the chef. And I didn't tell them, that I had the affiliation with Cured or whatever, but somehow they found out. And so they sent out some really nice little things. And then the chef came out and introduced himself. And it's because he had been a sous chef at Cured. and it was his favorite kitchen, and he enjoyed coming to work because he had the tools that he needed to do his job well. And this was not a knock on the restaurant in Austin, but he had worked in so many spaces that didn't work. So we care about the functionality. We ask about sock drawers and things like that. But interior designers, interior decorators and or designers often have a lot of working knowledge about how kitchen functions or how a utility room that's got to be 20 different things. They have ideas. They're much more current on that because that's what they're doing day in and day out. And so that's where the collaboration is really important. But we would love to have a seat at the table, and then we can have a voice there, but not necessarily have to drive every part of the project.
And I have a question based off of those comments. And I don't want to disparage anyone, but there are people that develop residential properties and they just throw up a big room, or they knock down all the walls, or basically they're not doing something that's really highly functional. They're just sort of going off of that knee jerk of what they think a buyer, and then it doesn't live well. The house, it doesn't patina well, it doesn't age well because of choices. Do you have any blanket success as realtors that we could be giving clients to say, as you're analyzing or giving consideration to homes, because if they're buying something and or maybe building, there's going to come a time where they're going to ask to sell it, right? And make a change in their life. And it's hard when you know that maybe they're not making great choices that are resellable.
So 2 anecdotes with the same client, and I'll go back to the Torcito client. As they started looking around for what they wanted, they found a terrific kind of heritage or historic house. And I won't mention which one it is, but they found a fantastic house. And I think for $5,000 or something like that, we did a full audit of the house. We showed all the things they could tear off that weren't original to the original plan, because they still had the original drawings. And they had like magazine articles on the house from like Better Homes and Garden, or I don't know what it was, but like from the 30s or the 40s or something. And then we developed a whole concept, and this is like in 2 weeks. And then the contractor was able to put a budget to that. And even though it was like a $2 million or close to $3 million, it was being sold for the land. But if you think that you can get 4,000 square foot of reusable house in it, all of a sudden land costs nearly nothing as a comp,
Right.
And we developed a beautiful scheme. We all got so excited about it. And then they decided not to pull the trigger, which was fine. But we helped them to do that. And when we're talking about multi-million-dollar investments, that kind of money is not, they couldn't have done it on their own. Their broker could tell them some things, but the images helped. And what helped even more was that a reputable contractor was able to put numbers to it. But then they found this house at Torcito, and we did the exact same exercise. And the house in Torcito is designed where the primary is on the second floor. From the road, you can see this amazing screen porch that's just perched up in the trees. It's really magical.
And that's the room.
And you don't even have to know anything else about the house. You just want to buy it when you step on that porch. So the primary bedroom was really large, like disproportionately large, with that screen porch, and that was one of the best features of the house. The only way to get up there was an elevator, and the elevator was already in the house. This client was like, and we talked through all of that, and we took the elevator out because they didn't want it, they didn't need it, and that wasn't their concern, but we explained and we walked through all of that with them. And there were some features like the differences of en-suites and Jack and Jill's and the value of all that kind of stuff. We went through all that. And probably 75% of our recommendations related to value, because we do have a sense of that and like to advise on that. They probably agreed or took 75% or so of our recommendations, but there were a couple of things like that they knowingly educated. So they didn't make mistakes. It wasn't a mistake at all. It was a choice.
It was a choice.
And so they didn't make mistakes related to resale or things like that because they were informed, and they made the choice that was best for them.
Since you've talked about Torcito a couple of times, because people may not know about Isaac Maxwell. if you give a quick little summary.
Yeah, so Isaac Maxwell is this really funky, trippy architect, and he's mostly known for his light fixtures.
Yes.
He has these amazing, like Beaumont Moods, a brand of light fixtures that was made really popular by Ford, Powell, and Carson, particularly at Hemisphere, and so you still find them on First Dibs and around
some
in the
houses
antique stores.
here,
And a lot of houses
yeah.
here still have them, particularly houses that were designed by Boone Powell or Chris Carson or O'Neill Ford. But just like all these other big design shops in town, there were other talented architects that worked with him, and Maxwell was one of those guys. And I stumbled across this project that is one of my favorite ruins. It breaks my heart that it's not in good shape, but it's an O'Neill Ford house, but it's clearly Maxwell worked on it. It has all the traits of the funky stuff that he did. But because as a sole practitioner, and also he worked with an architect named E.B. Flowers, they partnered a lot. And my understanding was they both worked in Ford's office for a time. He spent so much time making light fixtures, and that became popular, that he doesn't have a huge portfolio, and it's not well documented. And so he has some projects in that part of Alamo Heights, and this one in particular is one of it's the most prominent. You can really see it, and it's like perched on a mountain is what it feels like. Up over the almost basin right there at the top of that hill at the top of Torcida. And it's just a really fun, eclectic house. And so it was very fun to work on that and add a whole nother generation or layer to the story, to take it from something that was really for a retired couple with space for guests to a family of 5 with 3 kids under the age of 6.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was quite the task to figure out how to respect the house, but not embalm the house, to put it to death by saving it, doing such a good job of saving
That's such a
it,
good way to say, yes.
or making a mummy out of it. You know, we breathe new life into
Right.
it, but it still has all the things that made it a Maxwell house, and so including dozens. I think we counted like 60 light fixtures of his.
Wow.
Yeah, so
And you're reusing all of them.
we are repurposing them, and we're actually editing some.
Okay.
And so everyone will be saved. Not all of them will find a place back in the house, because it was almost like there were so many that it was like, there's another one. There's another one. And so we want to highlight them in a different way.
Okay.
And then we're thinking those could be fantastic gifts that they could give to people, or there may be a way. They're not going to sell them, I don't believe, but they're going to reuse them in a different way. I should note also on that one, so to kind of tie back all our partners on that project that people were collaborating with, we went through a process like we talked about related to interior designers, and they chose to work with Joel Mazurski. And Joel is an Austin designer, but from San Antonio, and he lives here now, and he lives in an Isaac Maxwell house.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just like,
That's perfect.
Yeah.
and the other partners who are other interior designers that proposed on the project are very talented as well, but it just was, it was a great fit.
Yeah.
And then we're working with Cameron Campbell, who's a landscape architect out of Austin, but also San Antonio.
It's
That's
my
our
brother-in-law.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
married to my sister. Yeah.
He is the best.
Yeah, I was just with him this weekend.
Yeah, we're working with him on 3 or 4
He
projects.
is the
and
best.
yeah.
He designed my yard that I have.
In your parents' yard.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know was her parents' yard one day. And this was years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
And then we're working with Lawson Jesse of Troy Jesse Construction, and Lawson is a frequent collaborator, not the only one, but a frequent collaborator as well. And so it's a dream team of the design and construction team. Yeah, yeah.
That was going to be a question on landscape architecture, because it's such a big piece. A lot of your things you've drawn are big windows looking outside, so it's outside, inside.
Yep.
Do you have a say in landscape architecture? Do you recommend people?
That's a great point, and again back to Torcida, because it's current, it's what's happening right now. But we certainly have opinions and ideas, and but Cameron came in and blew us away, he and his team, with not only the quality of their presentation, but they saw things that we didn't see. And some of those things we ended up going back to our ideas. There's this deck that's kind of a sawtooth or stair step deck, and they proposed a radical idea of just removing that, and a deck that actually functioned better than the one that was there. But at the end of the day, including Cameron, I think it's correct to say that we all agreed that the geometry of the original was such an integral part of the design, and the way it worked with the house and the tree and visually how it looked from below, that we decided to keep that, but we're going to reinterpret it with Cameron's detailing
Okay.
or his thoughts. So we're part of it, but he's got so much more to offer than we do. I mean, the ideas that he came up with for the pool and the way they wanted to have a playscape in the yard and all these kinds of things, we had made some suggestions, but Cameron went.
Well, maybe
So far
knowing you
beyond that.
and knowing Campbell, if they have like some sort of open house reception,
Yeah.
we'll get on the list.
Hey, I've already got architecture buddies.
Yeah.
I've got architectural friends in the community who saw our sign and they're asking for tours. They
Yeah.
want to see the inside of that house.
How long does a project like that take for you?
That's a great question, and it's the one that nobody really wants to
Answer.
give the answer. It's possible to do a project like that in 9 months, but it's not realistic.
Okay.
I mean, it really is a 12 to 15 month, maybe even 18-month process on a custom design home. It's not because it takes however many man hours that is. It's just because it has to marinate. It has to stew. You have to think through the things. There's just these slow revolutions of it. But as you're at 30,000 feet, you don't know if you're flying to Austin or San Antonio. So you got to figure that out first.
Right.
And then and so there's a lot to do in terms of landing the plane on a project. So we typically say, and again, I mean, from the time we're brought on, however long it takes to negotiate or to figure out if we're your guy or not, it's probably a 30 to 36 month process on a house of that level. We can do a project in 18 or 24 months. The project that you guys are the listing agents for the Newberry project, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah, we have a new build. And that house is being built as a spec by a developer, and so that one went much quicker. I think we went from initial introduction to permit drawings in like 6 months on that one. So it is possible. But that was much less personal than something like
You're using
we're
a
talking
scalpel
about.
approach to the Torcida project.
For sure.
Just very detailed. And
Yeah, and there's a lot of care in a new build, and also in something like a spec house. Most of the projects we're doing some of the projects we're doing out at Boot Ranch are specs. They just don't have that same personal, and then also the budget's usually much more clear.
And I'm curious if we can cut this out if it's not appropriate.
Sure.
But if you were going to engage in development also, would that mean that your firm would take on construction people? Like, what's the difference between what you're doing and
Sure.
Development?
I think the difference is that we have clients who come in and they have an opportunity, which is another fancy word for a problem, and we're the collaborators / problem solvers for what it is that they need to solve. They need to design a restaurant, or they've got a lot and they know they want to build an apartment building or a medical clinic or whatever it is. The difference would be us identifying a site, us either purchasing or bringing in the equity to purchase the property, and then contributing our design services to that. So putting that at risk, as the owner, I wouldn't be getting paid to do that. So it's an opportunity cost. You're not paying me to design your house. I'm spending my time paying my staff to design a project for me, and then
like
take
that.
the risk, and so I did something like that. I've developed my own home and built my own home. So that's a very small model of what we'd be interested in. But I think there's two other models, and it might be that either we conceive of a deal and then take it to a developer, and then they bring the equity, and then we figure out what the split is, and then we participate either in the sale or in the money that project throws off, and we'd also participate in the costs, related to it beyond our contributions. But the other way to do it would be some form of like a piece of the LP.
Right.
We have a project like that we did, that we designed. We contributed all the services. We paid for all of the engineering regarding that. We were not investors, so we didn't get paid back in the same way, but we had a piece of the LP. And so anytime the limited partner took out money for themselves out of that waterfall, we got a piece of it for a period of time. So our payout was longer, but it was more than what we would have gotten paid if we'd gotten a direct fee. So there's different ways to participate.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in the trends?
That was going to be my
Biophilic, how do you say that word? The indoor outdoor? Yes.
I feel like it's not as...
You've been doing that, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to some degree. I mean, biophilic design, I've been it's interesting because I've got a project where effectively that's what the owner wants to do. And so I've been researching it. And then I think the term developed with I think it developed by a developer who called it that in a project called Serenbe outside of Georgia. And it's an integration. It's as my kids would see, it's like touch grass. I mean, it's like getting outside. My kids would say, touching grass. It's getting outside, being connected. Certainly getting off the screens, getting your hands dirty, interacting with animals or plants or whatever it is. And so I wouldn't say that, I mean, there's aspects of our work that I think are lean that way, but I think we've got a long way to go in learning what that means. But we have a project going on right now we're about to get engaged in a serious way with, but have been working with that client for about 6 or 7 months, and that's the mountain we're about to try to figure out how to climb.
How to summit on
Yeah,
that.
but it is it's trending for sure, and I think for all the reasons, we certainly feel disconnected from each other and from nature and from our humanity, and so that's one way to do that. But to the inside outside, you mentioned that earlier. That's not an uncommon theme in architecture, but it's interesting how it is like just assumed by our architectural community. And then I'll go out, because I've got architects all over the region, all over the architecture friends all over the region of the country, and it's not as much a part of their language or their common knowledge. And so maybe that comes from, we all kind of share an architectural grandpappy and O'Neill Ford. Because of all the firms that maybe that's a language we're learning, because that was certainly a part of what he espoused. And there's no doubt that Ted and David at Lake Flato, I mean, we said it so much that we said inside, outside, blah, blah, blah. we got kind of tired of hearing ourselves saying it, but that's obviously a huge part of what they do. And then there's so many firms that have been influenced, whether they went and people spun off and joined another firm or they spun off and did their own thing like me. There's a bunch of us out there.
It'd be interesting to do a family tree on that for the architecture.
It really would. I pitched, and then things kind of went sideways in 2025. But I actually reached out to an editor and suggested that it'd be a great book, and there was a lot of interest in it. But as you know, books are kind of self-promoted puff pieces. They're great, but also not a lot of books are selling right now, and so we would have to basically all pitch and want to do it, and everybody was just busy keeping their nose above water. But it would be fun to revisit it because it is a really fun tree. I mean, fantastic firms in town. Brian Cordy out of Clayton Cordy and multiple people on his staff have spun out of there. Candid Rogers, who's FAIA, Tobin Smith, FAIA, Craig McMahon. Oh gosh, I shouldn't have started this. Now I'm going to forget. David Erickson, Cotton Estes, myself. Who else am I forgetting? John Grable. I mean, yeah, it's an amazing lineage of people, and I'm really honored to call them all
We'd
friends.
be interested in reading it.
Yeah, it would be a really good book. It might actually sell.
I think it's fascinating.
Thank you for meeting with us today.
Happy to do it.
It's fun to be down at the park. So your office is here.
It is.
And you live near here.
I walked to work this morning and 5 or 8 minute stroll. And I think I'm going to do a little post here in a minute. But I walked over to the local and I started my day over there, still sipping on that coffee. And then I took little videos of my second half of my commute to our studio. And I think I'm going to do a little Facebook post on that.
It's totally changed since you built your house over here.
No kidding.
It's like unrecognizable from, you were like almost the first, or
I don't know about first, because obviously there were people living there when we moved in, but in terms of a new build, ground up, there were a couple that were added and remodeled, and there's a few new builds now, including the townhomes across the street from us. But in terms of a brand new ground up construction, I think the gentleman who had my lot before me had bought it because it had burned. The house had burned, and so he paid to scrape it, did a soils report, and then some stuff led him to go ahead and move out of town. And he mentioned, he asked him how it was going, and he said he was going to sell it. And I'm like, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
What do you want? I don't have any money, but I bought it. So it was a good bet.
Yeah.
We're doing,
yes.
We're going to do okay.
Yeah, a very good bet.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question. Selfishly, your style is pretty specific. You wouldn't do like outside, like people. We have been reading that open concept. People are getting away from that. Not so much. Definitely getting away from the pure stark white grays and more color, more greeny, greeny, whatever that's called, greeny millennium. What is it?
Granny chic.
Granny chic. Yeah, your antiques are going to be coming back. I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Well, certainly.
And we can cut this too.
No. I certainly see it. I follow my daughters, both of them on Instagram,
Yeah.
and their tastes are skewing back toward that stuff. I mean, the numbers of 80s and 70s influences that are coming in are hilarious, even to the haircuts, But no, we really try to. I think one challenge that we have is there are architects, designers, interior landscape or whatever, that they have a style. And so you can go to them and say, I love what you do, just give me one of those.
Right.
A unique thing, it's not unique to us, but part of a challenge that we have is that our portfolio is a bit schizophrenic. And people look at it and they're not quite sure what they're going to get if they work with us. But I look at our projects and it sounds corny, but I mean, I see my clients' faces because it has been extremely collaborative. We did this really cool house on Cambridge Oval with a client who had very strong opinions about interiors, and she didn't have an interior designer. She made all the selections, tile, all of it. I want this cabinet here and I want all this here, but we helped her execute all of it. It is the coolest house.
Is it the new build was it a new build?
No, it's the bungalow. They call it Japo.
Oh, I know the one.
It's not Japanese. It's
like that rock one.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has a term.
Oh, it's amazing on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a rock structural rock house, and then it's a bungalow, and it's got cedar shakes, but it has these little I can't remember what they call it. It's not Japanese. It has a little, but it's a term because it was a style, bungalow style with these little Japanese details on it. And so we added an addition to it, a primary suite addition, and remodeled the entire ground floor of the home. And you can't tell where it stops and starts. But I don't have any other projects like that. I mean, it's awesome, but it's like top to bottom restoration hardware and certain colors and really bold, cool moves that all work together. But it's very personal to that client. So that part's really great. But it's a little, so to your question about style or whatever, we'd really try to understand the context, understand the client. Sometimes we frustrate our clients a little bit, I think, because we don't just start walking in with assumptions and starting sketching. But I think we come in and we ask questions and we listen. And as long as we can be comfortable in that exploratory state, you're giving me all these amazing ingredients to cook with.
That's got to be the definition of success, though, that you said you see your client's face.
No.
Because, I mean, you want it to be your place, not yours.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome.
I think that's really true. I uncovered the other day, I think it was maybe it was 2 days ago, maybe it was yesterday. Days go fast and slow at the same time. But this little conversation that creative was saying is that you hire a creative and the creative thinks that you want my creativity. And what you really want is about 10% of my creativity. And sometimes there's a frustration on the creative's part because where I am is way over here and I want to give you all this stuff. But where you are is where you are, and you need some of me. And in some cases you might need all my creativity, you may need part of it. But in a lot of our projects, they're just wanting someone to help them execute what it is, and they just don't have that skill set. And so that's where we see sometimes somebody as an architect that has a really strong point of view, relationships can kind of blow up pretty fast because somebody really is wanting a portion of that creativity, not all of it. And I don't know, that was kind of revelatory for me. I was like, oh, that explains some stuff. And I think when we understand that, and so that's something I'm going to be working even more as I move forward to really identify. Every client's different.
Right.
Most residential clients come with 2 clients. My wife's a licensed professional counselor and a master's in marriage and family therapy.
Oh, so she knows.
Yeah, and I've developed some skills and been in a relationship with her for 30 years. And it's helpful because there is that counseling aspect to designing a residential project. But the dynamics are always different, and so as an architect, you have to be really fluid in that regard. And so that's another metric that we'll be using is understanding or ascertaining how much does our client really need or want from us. And I think that will help our team as well to understand how much to lean into things and also when to back off and to manage all of that. So, that's part of why our work has this real eclectic feel to it, because it's about understanding the place, the project, particularly if you're dealing with an existing building, and then understanding at what level of creativity we're going to serve our clients. And so it's fun, though. It's fun.
I would say the second measure of success that you said is when you can't tell where the old house started and the new addition. That's really shows elegance and execution of a plan. Because we walk into a lot and you can definitely tell. And they're usually, they don't sell well, those homes, and they're not desired. So
I agree, and that definitely is a goal of ours. If not a stated goal, it's definitely built into the way that we work. Fingers crossed, Torcito that we talked a lot about today will be that kind of place, and that was certainly our goal. On it, I think you'll look at it and you'll go, that piece is a little bit different, but it won't feel out of place.
Right.
And we did that on purpose because we wanted, because it was a revered architect and a revered home, we wanted to have some delineation between the two, but we didn't want to have, in some cases, a lot of our European counterparts will have an architectural or antique building, and they'll come in with like a spaceship landing, and it's really cool, and it's real clear what's old and what's new. And this one, that would have been appropriate to go so edgy and so hard modern and slick. It still needed to have the characteristics of it. And so to bring that full circle, the house's masonry and very grounded and heavy and lovely in that way. It feels like a ruin or architectural ruin. But Maxwell did these really light metal skins, these lights, and so the addition is a wood addition that's clad in metal, and it's referential to the light fixtures. And we'll see what happens, but the plan is to actually clad it in copper and let it patina to like the color of a penny.
Yeah.
We may do it in zinc, and it'll still be lovely, slightly less expensive, but that's a way of understanding the context, not coming with a predefined style. And we wouldn't have gotten there if we walked in and said, I think. Instead, we said, what do you need? What do you want? And by listening, we came up with a solution that I think is going to be really appropriate.
You've had two great people in your life, the accountant and the counselor.
Yes.
That's helped turn your business. Do you want to ask about the music? I know we've taken up so much time.
No, I just was curious. So you're a singer.
Yeah.
And Lauren, who's sitting here, said that she's heard you sing at church. And then Jazz Texas.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So I have my dad to thank for that as well. My dad was a very accomplished piano player. Like he would play as 14 to 18, maybe 20. He was in the rodeo band in Pecos, Texas.
Oh my God.
And so they had an orchestra sitting above the bull chute. And they would mic it and pump it out while they were changing stuff. And my dad played piano in
Is it Pecos?
band.
Do they say they're the oldest?
They claim to be the world's oldest rodeo, and I
okay.
believe them. There's another place in Wyoming that claims the same, but in the middle of Main Street, which was right across the street from where my parents had their office in Pecos, I think it's, I don't remember, it's like Cedar and Second, I believe. But the lore, if I remember it correctly, is they held a bronco riding competition, and somebody took like a blue ribbon off a pie and gave it to the winner. So it's the first awarded competition of rodeo, of cowboy skills.
So that's where it comes from, yeah.
And that's their claim to it. Wyoming has something a year or two earlier before that. But yeah, so my dad was a very accomplished musician and a church musician. And as he was working his way through college, he worked in a little town outside of Lubbock and was their music director. My mother was a piano player.
Oh.
And so that's how they met. And then so that was passed down to my sister and I through piano lessons and a lot of, anytime the church doors were open, we were there. And the church that I grew up in, there was lots of singing, 90-member kids choir, 100-member youth choir, 150-member adult choir practice twice a week. So choir and music and singing was always part of my deal. And so when we moved here, I got involved in church music at my church, and our church pianist had come from Austin, and he was studying master's and eventually doctoral piano in Austin, and he was our piano player at church. And then some of our church holds a Christmas party every year down on the river at the Weston, and we invite people from the community to come, and an adult-only, really nice dinner, sing some hymns, hear a Christmas story. Aww. And this one year, some folks asked if we could have some jazz music and stay and dance, because you're dressed up, you're on the river. It was just a nice event. And so the church musicians just kind of did the best that they could. And then someone asked us if they said, hey, can you play at our wedding? And we're like, we're not a band. And they're like, well, it's okay. The wedding's not till October. And
Good time
it was around 2009 or 10 when I think it was Christmas of 2009, and then started looking around for some gigs. Played a gig at Land Library, which led to a gig in front of the Alamo. I've got photographs of me singing with the band, the whole band that we talked about for the 50th anniversary of John Wayne's The Alamo. It was incredible, and that led to a gig for all of us at Bohannon's, and then Doc Watkins was my buddy that I mentioned. He took, the little bit that we worked together, he took that and turned that into an empire. And he recently just opened we think his claim is, and I don't think anyone can step up and dispute it, the largest jazz club in the world.
In Montreux.
9,000 square foot jazz club in Montreux.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's killing it.
I'm
Been
gonna
open
go.
for a
I'm
couple
gonna go
months.
see my son who's in Houston.
Yeah.
So, been to this one.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
So for a time, I had been a part of. I had my own quartet as well. So I had some of my friends musicians from the scene down there were willing to play with me, and so I would do a couple of times a month. I would do 5 o'clock show, sometimes the late show, and but since COVID, it's just been so busy with kids now being in 2 other states.
Right.
And club volleyball and all the things that come with that, and keeping a business going. And with the Fredericksburg studio, it's not the top priority at the moment, but it'd be fun to get back to it someday.
I was waiting for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, it was great
Enjoyed
to
it.
meet you.
Loved catching up.
Yeah.